I do want to start, though, with a couple of stories that are in the news this week, and that is the continuation of the ongoing dumpster fire that is the Dallas Mavericks. Good on the Mavericks, by the way. We're forgetting what day we're recording this. Wednesday night, beating the Sacramento Kings to extend their season. Good for them. Good for that team.
Is it?
Well, I mean,
once you're in, I guess you want to win. You want to win.
You know, you can see like Anthony Davis clearly wants it. Like these guys that are playing want it. But the front office continues to step right in the old spit bucket over and over and over again. This week, Mavs executives Rick Welts and Nico Harrison met with a few Dallas-based reporters. The transcript of this Q&A is unbelievable. Like, I took some time this week to just read through the entire, 50,000 words of it. And I encourage everyone else to read it. It begins with Welts basically trying to steer the conversation towards the Mavs' plan to build a new arena before it, not surprisingly, devolving into Nico Harrison getting pummeled for the Luka Doncic trade.
But by the way, all fair questions.
All fair questions.
Those reporters asked completely fair questions. He just did not have a good answer for one of them.
To our guy, Tim McMahon.
Oh, man, yeah.
Tim McMahon, who after Rick Welts, gives a monologue that was the verbal version of the Everything is Awesome song from the Lego movie.
I thought he was filibustering, just trying to run out of time so Nico wouldn't have to answer any questions. I didn't realize I had to scroll that far down to get to the first question. But straight out of the chute, Tim McMahon says to Nico Harrison, everybody wants to see you fired. Why should Patrick Dumont keep you? Right out of the gate. By the way,
there was so many.
A fair question.
Fair question. He was throwing heaters, and some of the other guys there that were throwing heaters, Tim Cato, Louis Scruggs, they had some good questions at that Q&A, which by the way was we don't even need to get into the fact that they didn't have it televised, and for a while they weren't going to let the reporters record the conversation, which is nuts. You're just trying to
accurately say what happened.
Try to say that, but by not having recorded on the record stuff. And we've done that before. When you go into the lottery room, you have to give up your all your devices, and it makes it difficult to record accurate quotes. And I would think you'd want accurate quotes at a press gaggle. But
in this case, they didn't, because the accurate quotes were not good.
It was not good.
Spoiler alert.
It's been reported that this presser was entirely the idea of Patrick Dumont. Rachel, what stands out the most to you from this press conference?
I mean, Nico, I think it was 6 times people counted, said defense wins championships.
Oh, that was great.
Which is really questionable considering the defense they had last year got them into the finals and wasn't even the biggest issue they had in the finals.
No, they were 5th. Just to interject, 5th in the playoffs in defensive rating. And if you watch that final series, defense was not in the top 10 reasons they lost.
Look, I think Patrick Dumont wanted yet again to try to turn public opinion, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work for a couple of reasons. First of all, there is no defense of this decision. There is nothing that would stand up, no matter how many chances they have to get the message out, to get the wording right, to have the right number of reporters with the right number of recording devices. There is nothing they can ever say that will justify this trade. It was a mistake in every element, from wanting to do it in the first place, to the timing of when they did it, to who they talked to what they got back. Every single part of this was a bad idea. And I think Patrick Dumont, because he approved this bad idea, because he gave Nico free reign without any checks or balances, I've said it a lot of times, Nico's a very smart guy. I have a ton of respect for him. I've known him, as you have, for 25 plus years. But you cannot be the only voice in the room when you're talking about something this big. You need somebody just as powerful as you in the organization to check and balance you. And Patrick Dumont hasn't set it up that way after Mark Cuban was told, oh, I'm sorry, we actually don't need you as part of this franchise. There's no way to justify this, so they need to stop. And I think that Nico probably knows they need to stop. And I imagine that Rick Welts, who knows a thing or two about a thing or two, knows that they need to stop. That's why he tried to, throw the greatest block in there with the arena and this and that, the other. But
Rick Welts stepped in it pretty good too there. Rick Welts tried to compare the Luka Doncic trade to 3 different deals that he's been a part of.
Well, there's no, it doesn't work no matter what he said.
What is it like? But
he said the Monty Ellis trade, right?
Oh no, but I was going to say, what is it they say though about if you have nothing to say, don't say anything, right?
Yes.
Just don't say it. To be like we said we're going to say. Rick Welts going out there and comparing the Luka trade to Lenny Wilkins for Butch Beard in Seattle, Stephon Marbury to the Knicks back in the day, and the Monte Ellis deal, which freed up opportunity for Steph Curry, like this Luka deal is going to free up an opportunity for nebulous draft pick, an X over the next 5 years.
At least those were successful things, even though they weren't nearly on the scale of Luka Doncic. That Jason Kidd, who you and I also like a lot, is saying it's, quote, cool that this is compared to the Babe Ruth trade to the Yankees. You're Boston in that scenario.
Yeah.
Jason?
I can tell you it's not cool. It's not cool.
It's
not
going
to be cool. And if it's anything like the Babe Ruth trade, your name and the people involved's name will live in infamy because people from Boston know everybody, the manager, the general manager, the owner of that team that traded away Babe Ruth. They will live on. You will be in books. You will be talked about on radio shows and podcasts forever.
You know the name of the play? No, Nanette, right?
Oh, yeah, no.
Right? Yeah. Babe Ruth traded to raise money for a play, and on-Broadway play that also failed.
Yes.
But my colleague at Fox Sports, Kevin Wild, did an amazing look-upable on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, whatever, bit about the Babe Ruth trade. After Jason said that, I highly recommend everyone to check it out after you finish listening to this. But
it's not something you want to be connected to.
There's nothing he could have said that would have justified this, and he needs to stop. And again, I think he knows it. I think Rick knows it. Patrick Dumont clearly does not know it. New owner syndrome. There we go.
I just want to unpack a couple of things on what was said there, because I read this transcript twice, and it was just amazing. Nico is using the 2.5 quarters against the Houston Rockets as evidence that this team is a championship contender. Now, even if you believe that, and I'm inclined to believe that a Kyrie, Luka, Lively, Gafford, all the pieces there, I'm inclined to believe that that team can compete in the Western Conference. But that team may not exist ever again. Like Kyrie Irving is going to be coming back from an ACL injury next year. He's 33 years old. Anthony Davis is 32. Klay Thompson is 35. And all these guys have had major injuries over the last few years.
Which, by the way, you knew when you made this deal. Nico kept saying, I have a short window here. Why would you ever shorten your window, especially when dealing with players who are older and injury prone? This was all foreseeable. I understand that Kyrie's particular injury involved him banging into someone, and that was not something that, has to do with Jason Kidd's minutes and how much he was playing him. Being tired, having your body be tired, being of a certain age, having withstood a lot of injuries before, those all contribute to how hurt you get when the body clangs into another body. And it was foreseeable that with an older, injury-prone roster, shortening your window is not a good idea. There's nothing they can say to justify this.
You can't even say that you're extending your window when the team that you broke up went to the finals last year. It's not like you traded away a guy that got knocked out in the second round. You went to the finals and lost to a team that I don't think anybody was beaten in the playoffs last year.
No, and by the way, I think that we've been so amazed at the impact of this on the Mavericks, and it's just been so wide from the money they've been bringing in or the lack thereof to the fan base to how the team will ever recover from this, having not had draft picks, things like that. We haven't really stepped back to look at the impact, how this is going to sort of shape the next 5 years to more in the entire NBA. I think this move will end up being on par with the move of Kevin Durant going to the Golden State Warriors. I think that this will happen, and if it's not this year, it's after this summer once they get themselves a defensive center presence inside. They will go on and be, my guess, I'm just sitting here guessing, but I would say that they have a good chance to win, 2 titles in the 4 years after this summer, maybe? If I said that, nobody would call me crazy, right?
I mean, it depends how long LeBron can play.
Well, so that's the other part of this. So I think it's going to be Warriors-like, KD to the Warriors-like, and the fact that you're going to have a, quote, unfair team that has an advantage over almost every team that they play, no matter what everyone does with their roster. But LeBron's window has now been extended because LeBron, for the first time in his entire career, can lay back for the first 3 quarters of these playoff games if he needs to and let Austin Reeves and Luka go and show up for the fourth quarter the way he does, anchoring the defense in a way he can't do for 4 quarters anymore, but can do for the fourth if he's rested. And all of a sudden, Savannah James said that she wants LeBron to play through when Bryce is in the league.
Here we go.
So that's not next season where he'll be at Arizona. It's the season after that. You don't think that if Luka's winning him rings, he's going to just stay?
Yeah.
He certainly could.
I think the only thing that would take LeBron out is ownership of a Vegas team.
Okay, but if he has the chance, and this is the second part of where I don't think we've really looked at the wide enough impact of this trade. If he has the chance to tie Kobe, or what about tie Michael Jordan for rings? The one thing the people who are the MJ over LeBron detractors say all the time is 6 finals, 6 rings, baby. I think that LeBron would be very interested in winning ring 5 and 6. Ownership will always be there.
Yeah.
And if Luka Doncic and this trade make them the favorites in even just 2 finals in the next 5 years, which is not a strange, that's not a crazy notion.
Yeah.
That this trade has decimated the Mavericks, changed the competitive balance of the league for the next 4 or 5 years at least, and possibly changing completely the LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kobe conversation. That's crazy for one personnel move.
It is crazy. I have to run through, though, a couple of things that stood out, because I have a whole list of things that stood out from this thing.
It's so crazy. You can't even get through them.
It was wild. Nico defends the Luka deal by pointing to some of the other deals that he made that people criticized. And he's right on the facts there. There was criticism of the decision to acquire Kyrie Irving. There was more criticism to pay Kyrie Irving in a deal that looks obvious to make. Now, the Gafford deal was criticized. The Washington deal was criticized because of the draft capital. I remember texting like members of the Mavericks organization, like, man, you give up a lot for these guys. So he's right on there. But none of these guys are Luka Doncic. None of these guys are transcendent franchise players. We talked about the defense wins championship stuff, 5th best defensive rating in the playoffs, okay? Said he has no regrets on the deal. I don't believe that for 1 minute, not at all. Suggested during this Q&A that Luka may not have signed the Supermax. Why are we even doing that? Why are we suggesting that Luka was not going to sign a Supermax deal that would have guaranteed him $350+ million? Why are we even playing that game?
Didn't want to leave, that he was crying openly in front of the entire country just to be back there and thinking about what they did to him and how they ripped him out of Dallas. Trae Young, of all people who will forever be connected to Luka Doncic, tweeted to a clip of him on the bench crying. He said he was never going to leave.
No.
And that's all the tweet said.
Wasn't going to leave. Even if it wasn't Luka, like, nobody walks away from the Supermax.
No.
They don't. They don't walk away from the Supermax. You sign it now, and if you don't want to be there 2 years from now, you leave.
And same thing with the Mavericks, by the way.
Yes.
If they had signed him to that deal, and then they wanted to trade him after
At
a
age
year,
27,
they could have.
Insane. I'm just going to speed through these because there's so much to talk about. We talked about the Lenny Wilkins stuff. That was Rick Welts. The other thing Welts did was Welts was asked about the Mavs' ability to sell tickets because he brought up this whole like 75-80% renewal rate. I don't really believe that either. He said, remember Kyrie Irving, remember him as like, that's the carrot to sell tickets. Like, when has Kyrie been this huge ticket seller? Like when, like,
Well, I would say that people love Kyrie Irving.
They
He's
do
the most
love him, but
popular
it's not-
shoe
he's not
for
like-
years and years and years. But he's not playing for the first
also
half
that,
of the
also
season.
that too. And for the record, like Kyrie, he now owns the Dallas Mavericks.
Oh my
right?
God.
Like he can be a free agent this summer.
He
Even
be
with an
everything.
Achilles injury,
Dude.
they're gonna have to give him whatever contract he wants.
Yeah.
Like
ACL,
now you're
but
gonna
yeah.
wed yourself to Kyrie Irving until he's in his late 30s.
Yeah.
Like that. So that press conference, such as it was bonkers. My advice: stop doing them. Just stop doing
talking.
them, and you'll be better for it.